All right, let's look at some more Daodejing. Let's look at, hold on, let me get the actual website here. Let's look at verse 16, which says, "Empty your mind of all thoughts. Let your heart be at peace. Watch the turmoil of beings, but contemplate their return. Each separate being in the universe returns to the common source. Returning to the source is serenity. If you don't realize the source, you stumble in confusion and sorrow. When you realize where you come from, you naturally become tolerant, disinterested, amused, kind-hearted as a grandmother, dignified as a king. Immersed in the wonder of the Tao, you can deal with whatever life brings you. And when death comes, you're ready." So, what is this talking about? I think clearly it's talking about returning to the Tao and being one with the Tao. At the bottom, those last two lines of that first stanza, watch the turmoil of beings, but contemplate their return. What beings? Well, all beings who are not one with the Tao. It's saying, be affirmed in being one with the Tao by looking at most things which are most people which are in conflict with it, and pity them. But contemplate their return. Contemplate the time they will come back to the Tao and be one with the Tao. And then this second stanza, I think, beautifully summarizes the Tao. Each separate being in the universe returns to the common source. Returning to the source is serenity. The source, obviously, is the Tao. And the last part, except for those first two lines, it's all about being one with the Tao. Being one with the Tao, being in accord with the Tao, is when you realize where you come from, you naturally become tolerant, disinterested, amused, kind-hearted as a grandmother, dignified as a king, immersed in the wonder of the Tao. You can deal with whatever life brings you. And when death comes, you are ready. Because you know that is the Tao. That is the way of the universe. Death comes and we want to be one with the Tao and gracefully and placidly embrace that. In the notes, get rid of this. In the notes to this verse, Mitchell talks about that phrase, empty your mind, the first three words. He says, this doesn't mean suppress your thoughts, but step back from them. Insight into the Tao has nothing to do with the intellect and its abstractions. When we step out of self-consciousness, we step into the Tao. Lin Ching Sai said, quote, "The mind is originally empty, and only when it remains empty, without grasping or rejecting, can it respond to natural things without prejudice. It should be like a river gorge with a swan flying overhead. The river has no desire to retain the swan, yet the swan's passage is traced by its shadow without any omission." Another example, a mirror will reflect all things perfectly, whether they are beautiful or ugly. It never refuses to show a thing, nor does it retain the thing after it is gone. The mind should be as open as this. It should be a simple observer, a mirror. And then he says, does this sound anti-intellectual? And says, no. He quotes Einstein. Quote, the scientist's religious feeling takes the form of a rapturous amazement at the harmony of natural law, which reveals an intelligence of such superiority that in comparison with it, all the systematic thinking of human beings is an utterly insignificant reflection. This feeling is the guiding principle of his life and work. So let's also look at verse 19. Skip down here. That's close enough. Verse 19 says, throw away, this is going to be kind of counterintuitive, but throw away holiness and wisdom, and people will be 100 times happier. Throw away morality and justice, and people will do the right thing. Throw away industry and profit, and there won't be any thieves. If these three aren't enough, just stay at the center of the circle and let all things take their course. So, this is counterintuitive, but he's saying, don't impose rules. Throw out the rules and you won't need rules. Don't impose morality. Throw out the morality and people will do the right thing. It's the nature. It's the Tao. Throw away wealth and grasping and people won't steal. And if these three aren't enough, stay at the center of the circle. That's a phrase you hear a lot in Taoism. And let all things take their course. Wu Wei. Let the Tao, the way the universe works, follow its own course. There's nothing, makes no sense to try and change that. In his notes, Mitchell focuses on that first phrase: throw away holiness and wisdom. When some folks are called saints, other folks think of themselves as sinners. When one fellow is called wise, other imagine that there is something they need to know. The master doesn't have these categories. For her, no one is wise or holy. Thus, in her presence, everyone feels at home. Good stuff. And that is our Daodejing for the day.